In the Scream franchise, Ghostface's identity is usually revealed to be a combination of multiple people working together or a single person with a personal vendetta. But what they all have in common, in my opinion, is their love for horror movies and the desire to be part of the story themselves. This is every Ghostface identity explained. Let's start with the first film with Billy and Stu, the two main antagonists of the Scream franchise that became the first Ghostface for a number of reasons. Billy was a fan of horror films and had a troubled relationship with his father Hank, who was a powerful lawyer in Woodsboro. So here's what happened. Hank had an affair with Maureen, Sidney's mother, which led to the divorce of Billy's parents, and Billy was raised by his mother. This anger toward his father and his resentment towards Maureen for breaking up his family fueled Billy's motivation to become Ghostface. Now, Stu, on the other hand, was a horror film fanatic who followed his best friend Billy around. He was described as a submissive individual who submitted to peer pressure and followed Billy's lead. Now, this is a speculation that Stu may also have been in a secret relationship with Billy, which added to why Stu was so compliant with Billy's plan to become Ghostface. This is just a rumor and a theory, so don't at me. Now, Billy and Stu plan to copy their favorite horror films and become heroes when they survive their own murder spree. They targeted Maureen first as a way to get back at her for breaking up Billy's family. They then went to commit a murder spree in Woodsboro, planning on framing Maureen's husband, Neil, and eventually killing Sidney. However, it was later revealed that the true mastermind behind the murders was Roman, Maureen's son and Sidney half-brother, which I'm going to go ahead and discuss in the third film. Now, Billy and Stu's motivation for becoming Ghostface were rooted in their anger and resentment. They saw themselves as heroes in their own story, a twisted way of achieving fame and recognition. Their actions spark a chain of events that will continue to haunt Woodsboro and Prescott for years to come. Now let's talk about Scream 2. Nancy was the mother of Billy. She was an inconsolable mother who lost her son. However, she went on to become the mastermind behind the Windsor College murder spree in the second film. Nancy was driven by a desire for revenge. She was upset that her son was killed in the first film, and she wanted to get back at the people responsible for his death. She also had a strong dislike for Maureen, who had an affair with her husband and caused the end of her marriage. This hatred also was directed at Maureen's daughter Sidney, who becomes a famous survivor of the Woodsboro murders. Nancy saw Sidney as an undeserving symbol of success and used this to fuel her desire for revenge. To carry out her plan, Nancy found Mickey online on a website and paid for his college tuition. She then used her motherly influence to mentor and guide him, using him as a pawn in her plan to get revenge. She created the persona of Debbie Salt, a movie because she's so salty, a movie executive to hide her identity and plan the murders without being tracked back to her. She was confident that even if anyone suspected there was a second killer, that Debbie Salt persona would not be traced back to her. Nancy's plan worked perfectly, and Mickey became the main suspect. She was able to take advantage of the situation and put herself in the center of the media circus surrounding the killings. However, Sidney eventually discovered that Nancy was behind the murders, and in a final showdown, she was confronted by Sidney and killed. Mickey was a fan of horror movies and was inspired by the Woodsboro murders from the first film, and he underestimated Sidney as well was killed in the final showdown. His desire for fame and recognition ultimately led to his downfall, as he was unable to escape the consequences of his actions. Nancy and Mickey were both driven by different motivations to become the Ghostface, but as we get to see, both of their plans were ultimately stopped by Sidney. Now, my name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and if you're liking this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, I added closed captions if you're having issues a little bit understanding what I'm saying, but as always, I appreciate your feedback and the comments. Now let's go to Scream 3, which actually is one of my favorite films of the Scream franchise, and Roman Bridger is the main antagonist of the film, and he is the half-brother of Sidney. We get more story of who is Roman and Maureen, and something that I'm going to go ahead and discuss. Now, Roman was given up for adoption and lived a life of anger, and he felt abandoned by his mother. He eventually found her, and that's something that we did not see in the film, and he was shocked to learn that he already had a family. He planned to take his revenge on his half-sister, Sidney, and destroy the life that Maureen had created. Now, Roman's motivation as the Ghostface killer can be traced back as he grew up without a stable home and was constantly searching for a sense of belonging. When he finally found his mother, he was disappointed, and this is something that created a big trauma on his life, and he fueled this hatred towards his half-sister and Maureen. In addition to his anger toward his birth mother, he was also driven by a desire for fame and recognition. As a struggling film director, Roman saw Sidney's success and fame as a personal insult. He was jealous of her success and felt that she did not deserve it. In his mind, Sidney was living the life that he deserved, and he was committed to take it away from her. He had a plan to become the Ghostface killer, and it was actually a calculated one. First, as we know, he used Billy into committing the murders with the ultimate goal of killing Sidney. Roman was able to manipulate Billy into doing this. As we know, when Billy and Stu murder stopped, Roman saw an opportunity to continue their work and achieve his own goals. He started a new murder spree in Hollywood, this time targeting Sidney and her friends, and he was able to get close to Sidney. Throughout the Scream film series, Roman is shown to be a master manipulator and one of the best Ghostface. He's able to get close to his victims, tricking them into believing that he's their friend before revealing his true intentions. As we know, Roman's plans are stopped by Sidney, who managed to uncover the truth about her half-brother and stop him. However, as we get to see, his impact on the Scream franchise is significant, as he served as the representation of the evil that came from a life of anger, jealousy, and abandonment. Now, on Scream 4, Jill Roberts and Charlie serve as one of the primary villains in the fourth film of the series. Their motivations for becoming Ghostface, the mass killer, begins from their desire for fame and as well as their jealousy towards Sidney. Jill Roberts, who is a cousin of Sidney, grew up in the shadow of Sidney's fame and felt like her mother loved Sidney more than her. This translated into a deep-seated jealousy towards Sidney and her attention. Jill was not interested in working hard or getting a job, and instead, she wanted to achieve fame and attention in any way possible. This led her to create a plan to start a new murder spree in Woodsboro, using the disguise of Ghostface to do so. She partnered with her friend Charlie, who was in love with her, and together they planned their new murder spree. Charlie Walker, on the other hand, was a film fanatic and aspired to win the heart of Jill. He saw them as a remake version of Randy and Sidney from the previous films, and he went along with Jill's plan. However, things took a turn on the worse when Jill betrayed Charlie and stabbed him. She stated that it would work best for her if she was the only survivor and the new hero. Jill's motivations for becoming Ghostface were rooted in her desire for fame and attention, and she was willing to do whatever it takes. Of course, she was stopped by Dewey and Gail, who found out that Jill was the real killer and not Trevor. In the final showdown, Gail was able to distract the teenager long enough to give Sidney enough time to recover from Jill's attack. However, Jill recovered and picked up a shard of glass, planning to stab Sidney with it. She was shot in the chest by Sidney, who knew the killer always comes back for one last scare. Now Scream 5, which is Amber and Richie, who are two characters who appear in the last installment of the Scream franchise, 2002 film. They play a significant role in the movie as the main antagonists and as we get to see the new Ghostface killers. Unlike previous versions, their motivations for committing these crimes are unique and different from the others. As we get to see in the film, Amber is a young woman who always has been a fan of the Stab movies. She was extremely disappointed by the events of Stab 8, which she felt was not up to the standards of the previous movies. As a result, she connected with other fans of the franchise on a Stab subreddit and eventually met Richie. The two of them became fast friends and they bond over their love for the Stab franchise, and they're disappointed with the last movie. However, their friendship soon took a dark turn and they came up with a plan to create their own requel to the Stab franchise. Amber had a personal connection to the latest murders as her girlfriend's sister, Samantha Carpenter, was the daughter of Billy, connecting in full circle. Amber saw this as an opportunity to use Samantha as the basis for their new movie, and they began to frame her as a new Ghostface killer. They went along with their plan, committing several murders and eventually unmasking themselves as the real killers. Richie, on the other hand, was a fellow staff fan who also was disappointed by the events of the 8th film, and he had a fascinating idea of being part of the franchise and create his own legacy. Now, the motivations of Amber and Richie are different from the previous Ghostface killers in several ways, as we get to see it was not rooted in anger or revenge, but more about creating their own legacy and part of the history. As we get to see, they were both killed. Now, finally, each Ghostface is a character that is iconic by the mask and the costume. We soon are gonna have the 6th film, which I cannot wait to see. But what is your favorite Ghostface? Leave your comments below. My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, everyone.